Welcome to today's chess lesson, where we'll uncover the deadly Blackburn Shilling Gambit Trap. This tricky opening lures your opponent into a seemingly harmless position, only to spring a devastating attack. The Blackburn Shilling Gambit Trap arises after pawn to e4, and we respond with pawn to e5. Then, knight to f3 attacks the center, and knight to c6 defends it. Bishop to c4 follows, leading to the Italian game, a standard opening. However, now we play the unusual and dubious move, knight to d4, entering the Blackburn Shilling Gambit. The first thing to understand is that this is not truly a gambit. While it appears to sacrifice a pawn, it actually sets up a trap. If white simply castles, or plays knight to c3, or pawn to d3, or even trades pieces before castling, they maintain a small advantage due to better development, while black's position remains awkward. That said, at the beginner level, this trap is extremely common. If white captures the pawn, we follow up with the aggressive move queen to g5, setting the stage for a tactical strike. With this move, we are attacking the knight in the center, as well as targeting the pawn on g2. However, this move does nothing to address the threat on pawn f7. If white captures with the knight, they have fallen into the trap, even though they create a fork. Before we dive into that, I want to show you what happens if white captures with the bishop, which is their absolute best option to avoid losing immediately. We will move our king to d8, and the key thing white must recognize here is the importance of sacrificing their bishop by castling. If white does not do this, the pawn on g2 will fall, leading to significant trouble. After we capture the knight, black play pawn to c3, the knight retreats to a6, and to reinforce their position, white plays a simple pawn to d3 to defend. At this stage, we hold a slight advantage because we have gained a knight in exchange for two pawns. However, white still maintains strong central control, and our king remains exposed on d8. White will likely continue with pawn to f4, keeping the game dynamic and far from over. However, if white captures on f7 with the knight, they will fall directly into our tactical trap. At this point, white is completely lost despite creating a fork. We immediately capture the pawn on g2, attacking the rook in the corner. White has only one way to defend it, which is by moving the rook to f1. White does have another option, capturing our rook. However, after we capture theirs, white may technically be ahead by 1 point of material. Despite this, we can force a winning position. Once white blocks the check, we capture their defending piece. If they attempt to block with the queen, we simply capture it, securing victory. White is now in a dire position and is forced to block the attack from our bishop. At this stage, we have multiple winning options. One of the most direct ways to finish the game is by playing bishop to c5, which leads to checkmate in 8 moves. However, if you prefer to gain a significant material advantage before closing in for the win, a strong alternative is knight captures on c2. This move puts white in an impossible situation, as they are now forced to sacrifice their queen. If they do not give up the queen, they will face immediate checkmate due to the overwhelming attack. White might consider capturing the knight on h8, but this move does not help their position and only delays the inevitable. Instead, they may try a more defensive approach by moving their rook to f1, attempting to hold their position. However, this defensive attempt also fails. We immediately respond with captures on e4, delivering a powerful check to white's king. At this point, white is running out of options. If they attempt to block the check using their queen, we simply capture it, leaving them with no real counterplay. From here, we are completely winning as white's position is falling apart, and they have no way to recover. Because of this, most players in this position will choose to retreat their bishop to e2 rather than falling into a losing trap. The winning move here is knight to f3, delivering a beautiful checkmate in just one move. White is completely helpless because they cannot capture our knight. Their own queen is pinning their knight to their king, making it impossible to escape. The king is entirely boxed in by its own pieces, leaving no room to move. This results in a stunning checkmate in just 7 moves, showcasing the power of this tactical sequence. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more chess content. Now, let's move on to a closely related opening trap, known as the Fritz trap. Once again, it arises from the same starting moves. Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. However, instead of immediately playing knight to d4, we take a different approach that leads to yet another devastating trap. Since this trap is slightly more solid, we instead play knight to f6, attacking the central pawn and inviting white to launch the fried liver attack with knight to g5. This is a well-known aggressive weapon for white, often leading to strong attacking chances. However, instead of falling into white's usual plans, we continue with the main line by playing pawn to d5, striking at the center. White will typically capture the pawn, and instead of following the traditional response with knight to a5, which is the well-established main line, we opt for a different approach. We play knight to d4, jumping into the center and applying immediate pressure. This move leads to the Fritz variation, a lesser-known but highly effective alternative. At this point, white's best response is to play pawn to c3, trying to challenge our knight and regain control of the position. However, as we'll see, white can easily go wrong here, leading to devastating consequences. At this point, after pawn to b5, the game enters a more theoretical territory that goes beyond the scope of this opening discussion. Instead, a much more common move played by white is pawn to d6, which happens frequently in practice. In fact, this move is the second most popular choice. However, despite its popularity, it is not a strong move, and by playing correctly, you can win nearly 80% of games from this position. After we capture the pawn with our queen, white still has a chance to remain in the game if they simply castle and avoid capturing on f7 with their knight. However, if white greedily captures on f7 with the knight, they immediately fall into a losing position. Although they temporarily create a fork, we respond with queen to c6, attacking their bishop and seizing the advantage. We attack the pawn on g2, but at the same time, white's bishop is forced to defend the knight, which is under attack by our king. They can't defend both threats at once, leaving them in a difficult position. Before going further into this, let me show you another line. If white captures on f7 with their bishop, we enter a more balanced position. In this case, we move our king up to e7 to maintain pressure on the bishop. White's bishop then retreats, and after we capture it, white recaptures. At this point, we play pawn to h6, attacking their knight. The only reasonable move for white is to retreat their knight to f3, and then we push pawn to e4, threatening it again. Once again, the only good move for white is to back up their knight, this time to g1, as they struggle to find any meaningful counterplay. In this position, even though we are down a point of material, we have strong compensation due to white's complete lack of development. Our king can safely move to f7, and our bishop will get developed. We're in no danger and have a good position. Returning to the main line, after white captures on f7, we respond with queen to c6, attacking their bishop. Due to the chaos, most players opt to capture the rook and sacrifice their bishop, gaining some material. However, instead of capturing the bishop, we set our sights on a bigger target, the king. We play queen, captures on g2, applying overwhelming pressure. We attack the rook, and once again, the same tactical themes appear. The only square white can use to defend is rook to f1. We follow up with the same check, queen to e4, and if white blocks with the queen, we simply capture it, gaining a significant material advantage and a winning position. If white responds by retreating the bishop, we find ourselves in the same formation of pieces as before, allowing us to deliver the stunning knight to f3, resulting in a smothered checkmate. I hope you found this trap useful and can use it in your own games. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more chess tips and tricks. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.